Thank you, everybody. First of all, I want to appreciate everybody's efforts, and especially the financial team headed by CAFO TJ Plan and Deputy CAFO Lindsay Hacker, Budget Director Melanie, and all the award-winning financial team that has put ourselves in a good position how to handle this pandemic storm, and we're going to continue to be efficient, effective, and strategic and compassionate in our budget process. This is really a first. I've had to make some difficult decisions throughout the years, but we're in a good, solid financial position. We're still going to be prudent, but we're going to be able to. I didn't have to ask for any cuts this year. We want to see about keeping basic services and everything going, and also sprinkle in there some positive things to continue to be done in our neighborhoods, in our business sector, and for our residents. I know we're joined, I see that we're joined by City Council Justin Nurse, thank you. And I see that the Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer, Attorney Talia G, is also on it with other individuals who joined us too. I'm proud to say again, we have the highest bond ratings in the city's history. We've been able to get through this pandemic, and I want to thank each and every one. I say every budget hearing, from cabinet heads down the rank and file, who have been tested and through to a number of natural and man-made disasters. Many of us were on the front lines from day one, whether on the streets, and many back office stuff that continued to keep City Hall and operations going, and that's deeply appreciative. When we go through these budget narratives and the numbers here, again, we're also looking to maximize on grants, where grants can be utilized, that we can move some money off grants off the general fund there. And then we also want to make sure that we see some of the vision stuff that you're looking to do, and then if we can incorporate that, we will at that point in time. With that, I don't know if TJ has any opening comments, or Chief of Staff Tom Ash, before we move on to our afternoon budget session.
No, the only comment is this is an opportunity for the department heads to more or less have a dialogue with the mayor about kind of the highlights that have happened in recent years, and then kind of the budget requests and needs would be for FY23. This is more for the department heads to tell us their story.
Tom? Yeah. Okay. We're going to open up with internal audit, and that is Young No. Young No's on the Zoom. We appreciate it. Your efforts, and I know Cecilia is also on there too. I see her on Zoom there too. So with that, Young, if you want to give us an overview of some of the achievements. That's another thing too, and prior budget meetings, and I know we're going to do our due diligence to get this to the City Council. We've done early before in my days on the council. Sometimes we'd be lucky to get it a week or so before the July on it, but it's important. Many achievements have been done throughout the departments, and then some of the things that you're also looking for. So Young, go right ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. My FY23 budget is fairly consistent with last year. It funds 3 full-time employees. Erica Wallace, who I recently hired about 6 months ago, brought us to a full staffing of 3 employees. Our OTPS is mostly external audit fees, which is non-discretionary, and those relate to the external audit of the financial statements. This fiscal year, we expect to complete 7 audits reviews, including payroll. We recently completed a IT cybersecurity review at Springfield Public Schools. We plan on completing athletic funds, and we also did a cannabis review. And in the next couple of weeks, I will present the FY23 audit plan to management and then to the audit committee to lay out our agenda for the upcoming fiscal year.
Young, I appreciate your efforts on things that we statutorily do year in and year out, and some of the special things that we've had to look out to verify certain things or make sure when our checks and balances come into play to make sure that things are going in the right direction. So staffing wise, you're in good shape staffing wise.
Yes, I'm very happy with my staffing situation. As I mentioned in the past, we try to use as much technology as possible to keep our staffing level where it is. We feel as though we have the tools to make our audit process efficient by extracting data that we need and automating a lot of audit processes. So I am happy with my staffing level.
Your OTPS you're okay with too?
Yes, as I mentioned in the past, our OTPS is mostly the external audit fees, which is non-discretionary. But we also have to attend training sessions to maintain our professional designations.
TJ, I don't know if you have any questions or time.
No, thanks, Sean.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Sean. Thank you very much. All right, we get to my budget, and basically, again, it's personnel. We shaved a lot of other things on the OTPS side or other funds that other mayor's offices had on it. So, Tom, I don't know if you want to say anything, TJ, any questions, but it's pretty much it's all personnel.
Yeah, it's straightforward. The OTPS is primarily, as you know, the supplies. Staffing.
Oh, okay. I mean, there's no frozen. So, thank you. I appreciate that. We're now going to go to the Board of Elections Commission. And again, the Commissioner and City Clerk Lasayo and team have done a tremendous job. Matter of fact, when I speak to Secretary Galvin called me the other day, he always does highlight that. You do an outstanding job. You and your team. I'm going to point that out to you. And census, we were one of the few cities in Western Massachusetts actually worked hard, gained in our census, which is important because you got to stay over that 150,000 number threshold in order to CDBG and HUD funding on it. We actually increased it, I think we're almost 156,000. And the census work and the trials and tribulations of the pandemic and how you handle that, Gladys, you and your team. We had the in-person voting, we had the mail-in voting, we had the drop-off box, we did special voting places, whether City Hall or neighborhood centers, to make sure anybody that wanted to vote had the opportunity to vote. So I don't know, TJ or Tom, if you have any questions.
Just Gladys, and not necessarily budget related, but where do we stand? Actually, districting, so still much work to be done.
The final piece for the redistricting is that mayor kind of stole my thunder.
You can say it again, say it again, say it
It doesn't
again.
have to be all the time.
Save me a lot of words. What I do know is that this past year, that was part of the biggest part that we did in
Yeah.
elections with the census and the redistricting. And we're kind of at the very tail end of it. Right now, because of the state election, we have the last piece, which is getting our districts and precincts and sub precincts in order in order to have all our paperwork done for really running for office. And that's just a matter of the state kind of going down and downloading all of the information that we've already given them. We've done like the legwork, they're just putting it into the system, and now it's going to come back to us on the state computers that we use that are kind of on their own server. So we have to wait until they submit that to us, which is in the next couple weeks.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. TJ?
No major questions, Mayor. Just did you request for that postcard mailing that was municipal election? For FY23, so
The additional funding. I don't believe I did.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, and the new machines worked out fine. I know for years you were advocating for the new machines and funding for the new voting machines too.
Yes, and so that's another highlight from this past year was our municipal voting from the chat.
Yeah.
Thank you, TJ. And you asked for so many years, yeah. That was one of the things, and the rollout was pretty smooth as far as the voters were concerned, which was the most important piece. Our poll workers and our voters, ease of use for both of those two groups of people. The fact that we had it during the pandemic was a little, difficult, and we were concerned that people weren't going to have the need to come out. If we did, they came out and chose to use the equipment. I think it's going to be even better this coming election year because it is a midterm election. So part of our highlights for this FY23 will be the state gubernatorial race. So we're going to have the primary, the election, amongst other races. And it's been really a success as far as we're concerned. And going forward, I think, it's going to get even better.
You just talked to the mayor a little bit about the additional FTEs that you're looking for.
Yeah, that was my question. I was want to know what you're looking for, OTPS.
So part of it, and this it will kind of span all through budgets that I'm going to talk about, is the one thing that in the past, 10 years I've had to run for elections, it's always kind of been, bare bones budget. And this time level funded and lucky enough to say that we finally put in a request for something, right? So the request that I put in for election was continuing to keep the full-time employees that we have, so not adding any staff, but looking to kind of give a boost to the lowest paid staff in our office. So we have the election assistants, which are, right now, they're our frontline staff workers, and I put in an increase for those two individuals that were, as kind of the face of the office.
Your staff is always very hospitable. The caller, people will tell me on that. And sometimes they're just basic questions or technical questions just on it. And that's important. So what about OTPS? You okay? Mailings, anything? You talk about the postcards, the machines we got you last year. You anticipate anything, any curveballs coming with these upcoming elections that you might need?
I don't, in this year, so any state election year, we do get a state reimbursement,
Okay.
and that'll be the same this year. They increased it last year, typically get about 15,000, and the most recent reimbursement was for 71,000. So they have reimbursed it according to the postcard mailings or any of the vote by mail. They have
Primary and general. Okay. So just a request on solidifying the staff, and you're good on OTPS. TJ, any other questions or comments?
Just at some point, there, in Glass and TJ, as you know, we're gonna have to dive into this public request and how we're address that. It's gonna affect somebody's budget.
That's on my
I know Alicia's not-
that's on my other call.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's lots of, we'll have a bunch of questions on that.
Yes, yes.
All right, so that, why don't we'll skip by law, we'll continue up the glass, we'll continue on with the city council, which again, like my office, is pretty bare boned in personal costs.
And that's another one, it is very, very bones, but it's all remains the same from last year in terms of OCPS.
Yeah.
The only increase that I did include in here was for the senior council aides. And part of one of the things that I'd like to highlight in terms of my work as a new city clerk, over the past 8 months, that they, the two senior council aides have really been an anchor in that department. And really know all of the ins and outs of the city council, what the work of the city council is. Their constituent services are literally unmatched as far as, and that's coming from elections. I thought my election staff was amazing in terms of constituent service, but they really know and help everyone throughout the city as the point people for the 13 city councils. So they get all of these phone calls. They get easily over 300 phone calls a week. And with the pandemic, part of what has happened is they have become kind of a 24-hour, 7 days a week operation. So the two senior council aides are the link to Focus. And so they're the direct connection to Focus and all of these meetings as far as the city council goes. They've helped enormously in keeping kind of that machine humming without really any any errors, any issues, and continue to do so. So I think that's part of why I took it upon myself to do a case study with other city councils, both here in Massachusetts and in Connecticut and bigger metropolitan cities to see how their staff and what they get compensated. And I submitted something that I thought would be commensurate to what they do.
Yeah, it's the same, the work that, I said, same thing, you the garage with calls, and Sean's been a nice addition there too, so.
Yes,
So that's okay, it's something that we
that's
will
it.
look at, and as far as OTPS, is anything need to city council, you know?
No. They're fine.
All right, Tommy or TJ, any questions? Well, Gladys is up here, we'll do the trifecta, we'll get the whole thing done. Moving to, we're in your Madam Clerk. Hey, John, hi, Judge Banks, we're in your Madam Clerk hat now. We'll move to the city clerks, and then I know you have a lot of highlights to give there, and then let me ask you a couple more questions on TJ has. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
So the main highlight that I'd like to stress on the clerk's office is the amount of work that was done, even though we're, closed to the public on some days where there's staggered staffing. Coming from elections and knowing some of the work that was done in the clerk's office, I was floored by the amount of walk-in customers. I really honestly believe, and I'll say this, is that the city clerk's office, the staff there in the front, and really are the hub of City Hall. They see the most walk-in customers. They do take the most phone calls. I've verified with Roy that they transfer calls directly to the city clerk's office constantly. And the other piece is the online orders that we get in the city clerk's office. So those three things, even though the overall revenue isn't as large as some other departments, the smaller amount, so we get revenue in the amount of $5 all the way up to $100 per transaction. And I clocked in over 28,000 single transactions that we handle. And that's a staff of at least 6 to 7, so sometimes a little less. And I'm requesting in my FY23 budget one additional FTE for just that side of the office to be able to handle the walk-in customers, because sometimes it does get a line out in the hallway, and it's complexity of each of these individual transactions sometimes can take 5-10 minutes. So we're working on that. We're actually working with the auditor to come down and review everything. I wanted him to look at all of our practices based on what he sees, and me as a fresh set of eyes coming in as a new clerk, so that we can kind of improve any processes we have in the office, so that we can make sure we don't miss any revenue, and we're also not having wasted time or wasted steps with the good employees that we do have and that we do.
I have to say, and I appreciate every time you call the ship that, as I said, with treasurer and collectors this morning, we never shut down. Those vital records and things that people needed, birth certificates, marriage certificates, death certificates, other things that is essential. We made sure we kept the city clerks open. We made sure that we were able to deal with those lines. We were able to handle special requests too. So I know in a lot of city halls or other places, they were closed for literally a year and a half. Literally a year and a half. We had appointments and we never closed. With the phase and treasurers, and you touch a lot of people. City clerks touches a lot of people that come in that need those things, and they're very timely oriented. And sometimes I know we had, I think one time we had somebody that needed a marriage certificate or something because we had to leave to go get married, and we were able to get that special request. So much like treasurer and collectors, we never shut down, we kept going. So as far as OTPS, you seem to be okay with that. You just want to take a look at the positions as you continue to reorganize.
Yeah, until we do a good, in-depth audit. I know some of our software is a little antiquated at this point because it was done when William was here. I didn't want to include anything in here until we really went over everything with the auditor to then put in a request for new software.
I know TJ had a
Yeah, so the
question on
big,
the,
the big question that,
FOIAs.
is the public records law that is now kind of having to be the point person as the clerk to kind of make sure that we're getting the information in and then out to the appropriate departments and then back so we have tracking of it. I know we've talked about kind of reorganizing and figuring out a unit. And we were talking with the law department as well, so there's a lot of, like, I guess, we in a place where for FY23, we can have the organization that we need to be successful in the public records increase.
I think, and I'm just gonna speak for the clerk side of it and maybe put in a sprinkle of what the law department side may say. I think both of our departments on that one piece are severely understaffed. So the law department right now doesn't have enough people to help cover. We don't have enough people to cover it solely by ourselves. And then there is a cross communication that has to happen between those two departments in order for us to successfully, continue to get cranking out these requests. The piece that we need is we do need that base level employee that's going to just receive the request, know where it goes, and make sure that they track it through the process so that those 10 days don't expire and then we get sued or we get an appeal filed with the Secretary of State's office. So we need, that's why I've included that on my end in terms of, what we need in the immediate. I think what we need as a public records for the city as a whole is a lot broader conversation. I know that the law department has kind of tapped Alicia to work on it, and Attorney Days is going to be looking at an organizational kind of way to put it together with myself, and I believe also Attorney Chief, I think. I know right now, and it's all hands on deck type of situation. Everybody's got fingers plugging us, and whole Kathy Burke has been working with me this week on just one request that has like 10 different heads. You lop a head off of it, and another one goes back, and that's how it's wild. And so this is what we're working with right now. And I think the first piece is putting in those base level employees that can just track the request, receive the request, and make sure that everyone else is working in a timely fashion to get the request through. And that's where we are, as far as my.
I think most municipalities are going through this same kind of difficulty, so fact that just being reviewed and be sure kind of.
Taking further, dispatch,
Yeah.
police department, body worn cameras, fire department, then add in all this other stuff that we get that we may not even be aware of. I mean, I get emails probably daily that, technically are a freedom of information request.
Exactly. And elections the same thing. We just respond to it, and then I'll on the back end send it to public record and say, please track this.
But what I'm hoping to do is get to a repository in the database, or whatever we're calling it, where we can pull up if somebody asks that again.
Yes.
But it is pressing on a bear. It's been a challenge. So. Other than that, that's all the questions I have.
Is anything else you want to add? So the position review on that, we clarified in FOIAs of public records. And that's, again, you're a smart manager, bringing the young in there to say, I know there's a lot of things that you're doing very well there. You made some changes, stuff. I just want to make sure you're fine tuned to the best of the abilities, what more can enhance customer service. And I tell people all the time, you might be government, but you got to think private. They're in the customer service business, and that's important how you do that. Okay, very good. Thank you. The last we have, and I'm glad to have the Honorable Judge Payne on board. And I'm happy that he decided. John, you want to John? John remembers the days of Mary Hurley when we had some difficult budget decisions made at that time. So we're glad to have you, Judge, on board, and we appreciate retired city solicitor Ed McCool's many years of dedicated efforts into the law department. I know law department's involved in everything and anything on it, and we appreciate their efforts. The judges come in, he's going to put his stamp on the department. reorganizing it, and we're very lucky to have you. I'm glad that you decided to come back. And Judge Payne, I don't know if you wanted to give some type of highlights and stuff like that, then we can go into this question, or what needs you have with personnel or OTPS. So,
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Where we are right now is kind of going through an attempt to deal with what I think are a couple of the major issues. One, our staffing, which is fallen considerably, attempting to bring in new people. You're aware, as is finance folks. Leah is going to be coming into the law department on a full-time basis, and Tom Moore would like to come back as well. They would fill a couple of very important positions for us. Leah would be working under our deputy, Alicia Days, and she has asked specifically to begin the work on the public records, which is a second major issue that we have to deal with right at the moment. We have other staffing positions we need to fill. Our litigation is, we're very lucky right now. We've got a couple of real top people handling that, but they're facing a tsunami of cases now that the courts are starting to reopen again. And we're going to have to bulk that group up to get some more people in as well. The public records, as you just alluded to with our clerk, is I had no idea. I had absolutely no idea what the change we wanted done to municipalities, and we're getting just literally hammered with the public records requests. Some of them are legitimate, some of them like frivolous, but nonetheless we have to deal with them. And I don't see any chance that there's going to be any modification to that law, given where we are today. So we're attempting to do that. As I say, we're going to attempt to come up with a system whereby we can really get a tracking aspect of what's coming in. I think every department has to, again, be educated with the fact that although they may respond themselves to a public records request, they do it with the best of intentions. It leaves us kind of hanging out there as a city when we don't know exactly what requests have come in and what has gone out and where they are. At times we're recreating the documents that we've already gathered for one thing or another. So our goal is with my deputy Alicia Days and with Leah and Steve Roach is to, as I say, come up with a document plan, working with the clerk, so that we know every public record request that comes in, when it came in, who it's gone to, what records are being produced, when they're being produced, when they're being sent out, and then we can track all of that. And then we know, so that if the same request comes in or a similar request comes in, where again, we're not recreating the wheel on that aspect. And I do think it's likely that that's going to require kind of a separation of the division, which will probably come under a combination of the court and the law department, so that can be managed. Because this is like this whole evolving. But staffing is obviously a key aspect of public records, and then trying to get my hands wrapped around some of the. When I was the city solicitor way back when, we didn't. Cannabis was something you bought on the street. You were lucky to get arrested and prosecuted for it. We certainly didn't have a casino, and cable television was still in its infancy, and all of the other aspects of the legal aspect of running the city is it's quite interesting. So there are a number of aspects there, but I think we can answer any of the questions.
well, I know, John, with as we make this transition, we're trying to harness talent, utilize all the talent we have. Some transitions will be made, and have some announcements coming up here to assist you with the team, the law department. I think on in fairness to the law department of the city, Kathy, and to the city clerk, Alicia, a lot of the FOIA stuff and public information, a lot of stuff changed, and it changed during the pandemic time.
Yeah.
Which made it a little bit difficult, as we kept things open, but, you know, we try to preserve, protect our workforce and stagger stuff. So a lot of those changes were being implemented, or new changes coming in as we were going through the tough stages of the pandemic. But I think your idea when we talked about having a separate division of Murdoch and the TJ had said, and you said, Judge, you might be getting the same request, whether it's the same person maybe did it 2 or 3 years ago, or somebody else that's asking for the same thing that we already gave off, which some, as you said, Your Honor, is legit. Some is frivolous, but it is time consuming. And we have to abide by it.
And we are going to request where appropriate, and where we can do it legally, charge for these collections. We have one person who has been filing a number of just lengthy, difficult requests, and quite frankly has indicated through his own emails that he represents a party interested in a bid. And I just saw the first bill we're sending out, and it's $780. Once they come up with $780, you'll get all of the records. So, and then we'll go from there.
Very good. So I know the TJ or town questions, you're continuing to reorganize and assess the law department and utilize all the complete town. And I know you're looking, as you moved already, you bring in new talent or talent that's been established too. People forget, and John was, again, here with Mary, Hurley was mayor, and unbelievable, I couldn't believe it. Part-time solicitor, but we worked full-time. This is corporate counsel. This is a budget, an overall budget of, well, it's going to be over $1 billion if you count everything. But just say on the base operation, nearly, it's going to be over $750 million. So you have to consider this corporate counsel. And I appreciate Ed's efforts, and I appreciate the judge coming on board and bringing the law department. So your need, as far as OTPS, Judge, you seem to be okay, but it's really, as you reorganize the department, that's the need with attorneys, specialized attorneys on a contract basis, the backup stuff, paralegal stuff, which is important. And OTPS, you're okay, and it's establishing that public records division.
Which I think we can do within the budgetary constraints that we have, by filling a couple of the paralegal spots, the attorney spots, maybe a contract person on a part-time basis, and with the staff we have, I think we can reorganize it and do that. And also, that's getting some additional people to might be able to be involved in litigation. Also, like to get somebody here, at least on a part-time basis, who know more regularly with the city council and so forth. So,
Yeah. Good. TJ, if you
I mean, the staffing is going to challenge some of the salaries, some of the right attorneys here, so whatever you need from us, assistance with that.
yeah, and I mean, I don't think I'm speaking out of turn, but I've got 3 excellent deputies, but all 3 of them are looking at we're looking at now a long time for those 3 people before they leave. Why would we need before them?
say it ain't so. Is that the movie line? But the law department has been a great proving ground for many young attorneys. He or she that moved on to become judges, district attorneys. They moved into the private sector, and that's what we're looking to do again. You got to pay your dues, but they're a great opportunity.
That's one of my sons. You just said it. You said it better than I could. This is never mind the capital expenditure. This is a $750 million a year corporation. And if you've got a $750 million a year corporation, you better have a legal team that can deal with all the issues. I'm amazed. And I know it's ancient history from when I was first here, but I'm just amazed at the of issues that didn't exist then, that exist now. It's tough. It really is.
Lucky to have it, glad to have it. So pretty much cut and dry, you're okay in OTPS. We know what we're gonna do on rearranging and bringing established talent and new talent in, and you continue to reorganize the department. You're on it, and we'll continue to work with you on that to enhance what's already being done. And the vital, and the, not the vital, the records. Yeah, making that a little more stream. I think that database is key. So we're not redundant. Any other questions or comments? Okay, I think we're good until tomorrow then. Thank you very much, everybody. See you tomorrow.